You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
Hello and welcome to episode 26 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I am Jonathan Giles, your host. Along with me this week is Matt Lowe, who is always here drinking some beers. And we do not have Jessica this week. Looking over at the webcam, it's just not as pretty of a picture at all. But we do have Dave Roberts here with us. Dave is a small business owner. He is an owner of Dr. Cool. First, let's talk Fortnite. Any of y'all's kids play Fortnite? Mine are a little young for that. But either one of you two. Okay, so you're familiar with the Fortnite. Well, Matt,
I'm vaguely familiar with it.
Well, would you pay $25 an hour to help improve your kids' skills in Fortnite?
No. In fact, I took video games away from them for 2 months because they didn't do their chores.
Well, look, according to some of these parents that were interviewed in this Guardian article, and this story's all over everywhere. It's all over USA Today, People, and everywhere else. Apparently, there's pressure not just to play it, but to be really good at it. You can imagine what that's like for him at school, says Allie Hicks, a project manager with a 10-year-old son. So, are you, Matt, are you not at all concerned about your children's reputation at school based on how well they play Fortnite?
Nope, not at all. Never even crossed my mind.
Well, it never crossed my mind either until I saw this article.
Well, I'm 41 years old, don't have any kids. The last video game I played had Mario Brothers in it. But, who knows? Esports has become a big thing. I just did a big system install for a guy that works for Turner Sports, and he was covering the esports games. And I had no idea there was such a thing.
Oh yeah, there on the other end of that, there are millennials who make quite a good living at that on a couple ends, on the competitive circuit, as well as if you cruise on over to YouTube. And I know that this is something that Matt can attest to, and my kids do it too. Some of the most profitable channels on YouTube are channels that are nothing more than people playing video games for hours.
Yeah, dude, my kids watch this one dude that it's Minecraft. And he goes out and plays on other people's boards, and I know his videos get millions of views. It's insane. It's the dumbest thing too. I don't know why after 2.5 hours of it, I'm like, y'all go outside.
And the thing about it is, you say it's the dumbest thing, but if you saw that dude's checks, it would make you sick.
Oh, I know. I'm certain he's $250,000, $300,000 a year just from that.
Yeah, if that. Some of those YouTubers are in the millions.
Well, as a free market guy, good for him, I guess. I can't imagine setting children in front of a TV and letting them. And this is what I've seen in people's houses: is not even watching them play it, but narrate somebody else playing it.
Yes, that's that's how it goes, and they do that. They're pretty serious too. A lot of these people, they have thousands and thousands and thousands of videos of just an array of games. It's an entire sub channel on YouTube. You can, YouTube actually has a video game sub thing where you can just see all of the people playing video games. And it's also moved over to Facebook Live as well. If you go to Facebook Live and you look around at what's going on live around the world, and you just kind of click through it on the map, then you'll see quite a bit of people playing video games, particularly in America. You don't see that in other countries other than it's happening in Europe, but you know, some of the best Facebook lives that you'll see though is, you know, you cruise down and see what's going on Facebook Live in South America, or what's going on Facebook Live, you know, over somewhere. You'll see like a single little Facebook Live video that's originating out of a remote part of Africa, and those are sometimes some of the best.
Did y'all see that article about he's a professional Call of Duty player, and he broke up with his girlfriend, who has been dubbed the sexiest weather girl in the world, so that he could focus on Call of Duty.
Now, look, I saw this story, and there's no way that he dumped her over Call of Duty. He dumped her because she's crazy, and he gave her that excuse.
I was still like, I read that article, and of all the things that were in that were hard to believe, I found the fact that there was a guy who had become a millionaire by playing Call of Duty. That was the most surreal part of that article to me.
Well, you know, I spent a good part of last week, or all of last week actually, in Philadelphia at Podcast Movement. And some of the podcasts that you've never heard of before that people are making a fortune doing, and the things that they're doing would just boggle your mind. I met a guy who does a podcast where he travels and he narrates his trip to go get breakfast.
That's like fat guy porn right there.
Yeah. This is legitimately how it goes down, okay? He starts in the hotel room. And he's, you know, hey, what's going on? It's Dan. We're here for another week of Breakfast with Dan. We're in Chicago today. And I'm here in the Hilton, and we're fixing to head down. I'm not quite feeling the continental breakfast, so we're gonna go down to the front desk and we're gonna see what the locals recommend.
So he's not at the St. Regis. He's at the Garden Inn.
Right.
Yeah.
Breakfast at the IHOP.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like it's utterly amazing the content that people will watch if you put it out. But
wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's sort of like this is three old guys talking. When I was playing poker and I was playing some underground clubs, I would watch poker on TV, and I guarantee you my father would go, "Why are you watching other people play a game?"
Right.
Yeah. See, I never did the underground stuff. I was a big online player before it got shut down. But.
Well, a couple of the clubs I played in, and I wasn't there on those nights, had people bust in the door and they get robbed. Of course, you can't call the cops at that point.
Yeah. All right. And in other news, we've learned that David Schaefer has conceded the lieutenant governor's race to Jeff Duncan, so that is now a done deal. That was, of course, a very tight race, and you know, while the possibility of a Schaefer win, you know, was still, I believe, mathematically possible. You know, I think that he was just kind of concerned about party unity and about the Democrat in November and all of that. You know, I was just kind of, where are you guys at on that? On Jeff Duncan in particular? I know that I've not been very happy with the way that he has run his campaign thus far.
Well, he proves that ugly campaigning works.
That is true.
I'm not a fan of the way he ran. I wasn't a fan of either one of them. If they could have both lost, that'd been fine with me.
Yeah. In this corner, we've got I am the most pro-life candidate in the race. In this corner, That guy's a scumbag. I played semi-pro baseball, so we're still waiting to hear back. I know that Jessica has been reaching out to a lot of candidates from her time off and celebrating the big 3-0. So yeah, you can't get away with calling her young lady anymore.
Right. She did get. I want to say that I saw earlier that she had some confirmation about interviews with nearly everyone.
But Duncan is not on that list as of the time that we're doing this recording. However, his opponent is. So
after last week's comments, I think he may need to cool off before he lines up for an interview with her.
Yeah, well, I mean, that wouldn't be good. You don't want to fight her on camera
or anywhere else.
Yeah, it's not gonna be. It's not gonna be good. That's that was, and that's something that I've told her repeatedly, that the thing that amazes me so much, if you go back to House District 19 Rep Joseph Gullett's Facebook page, that infamous thread with Chris Severe when the whole Paulette Rakestraw thing broke out. Jessica is all over that thread, just absolutely hilarious and on point. And what nobody knew at the time was that she was also in bed, so sick that she could barely get out of bed, and just completely wasted on cold medicine. So she was literally like sitting there, arguing in the thread, and then the cold medicine would take hold and she would go out for a few hours, and then she'd wake back up and come back into the thread. And it's like, wow, that kind of performance when you're unable to get out of bed, that's just incredible.
And had the energy to fight with a madman.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, look, there were lawsuits imminent,
I was about to say, am I on the lawsuit list now? My name is David Roberts. It's Dr. Cool.
Yeah, listen, he actually owns a business, so.
Damn.
I think he's moved on to other things. That was. So, when Brian Kemp, coming up into his runoff with Casey Cagle, Brian Kemp was endorsed by Donald Trump, and we've now learned that Stacey Abrams has been endorsed by Barack Obama, although it was done in a bit of a different way. It wasn't, Donald Trump, when he endorsed Kemp, he directly endorsed Kemp, whereas Obama put out a list of people that he's endorsing, and I don't think that has quite the same power, I guess.
Right, I agree. Well, I mean,
because he backed 81 Democrats at once is what he did.
Right, yeah, you're just another name in the list. But I also I don't know how relevant is Obama anymore.
Well, I think that it kind of, it comes down to the one of the age old questions in politics, which is it's something that the Libertarian Party is experiencing as well. They there are the libertarians who say, look, let's focus on the popular issues and kind of stay away a bit from the discussions on whether or not we should, be selling heroin to school children, and how much of an affront to your liberty a driver's license is.
Right.
And, it's the same thing with the Democrats. There are the Democrats who believe that you need to step it into the middle to win. And then there are the other Democrats who believe that, the reason that Democrats don't win is because they go too far in the middle and they need to go further to the left. And, clearly Abrams has went to the left. Sponsoring an assault weapons ban, the nonsense with Stone Mountain.
Well, the thing about getting Obama to endorse her now, even though she's on a list of 400 other people, is that it's a general election in a state that he did not carry, not once. Now, when Trump endorsed Kemp, he did it during a Republican primary runoff. So it was against another Republican, and I think that had more sway for people to get him out into the polls during summer vacation because they were charged up with his populist message.
Right. And, and I think that Matt made a fantastic point too, regarding specifically Trump, that, there are a lot of people who don't pay attention to state politics, and but they religiously pay attention to what Trump does. And, I imagine that Brian Kemp picked up quite a few voters who probably were not paying attention and did not even know that there was a runoff election going on until they saw Donald Trump tweet about it. So there's that end too. But, the other end is that, I think that, I don't know where it's at with Kemp. My personal opinion, I do believe that which I know that, this is just, we're just basically just, talking hypotheticals now, but I do believe that in an Evans versus Cagle race, I think Evans could have taken that race. And
absolutely. There's people like me who were anybody but Cagle. Vote Libertarian, write in Matt Lowe, write at anybody besides Cagle, because he was so repugnant in the way he handled the lieutenant governor's position.
Based on what I'd read, I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't have cast a vote for a Stacey Evans. She's not that scary to me. Abrams is. Evans isn't.
Yeah, but I don't know. Is Abrams, did she take a step to the left? Even though, when you kind of look at what she's done at her time in the House, she worked with Republicans quite a bit. There was a giant axe that she helped kill. There was another Republican that, he didn't understand his own bill, and she broke it down for him.
And I'll tell you, and to that point is, I would almost rather have a Republican as a Democrat as governor with a Republican legislature and get nothing done for 4 years than have 8 years of Cagle.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Definitely. Sweet gridlock.
Yeah.
Says the libertarian in the room. Thank you.
Yeah, and I do. I think that well, let's discuss Stone Mountain, because I don't think that we've ever discussed Stone Mountain on this show before, and we're not going to get into the legalities and the contracts and all of that. Does anybody really care if Stone Mountain were, if the carving on Stone Mountain were just sandblasted away?
I wouldn't know because I don't go to Gwinnett.
I think that's in DeKalb.
Close enough.
I have been a firm supporter of the idea of let's put Outcast on Stone Mountain.
I don't know, man. I like the monuments to history. Even if it's about, things that that were not our finest moments. You know, it's a good thing to have around. You know, it makes next generation question it. You know, why did you do this? Why did you?
Also, I'm sorry, man.
No, that's fine.
It's an engineering marvel for the time that we have down here that you don't have to go to the Dakotas. It really is. It's an engineering marvel the way it was done, the way it was designed, and it's something if you put it in under glass and examine it for the period of time in which it was created, it's wonderful.
Right. I just think there's folks, they can't get past the racial overtones with it. And I get that. I understand it, but well, I say I understand it. I don't understand it because I mean, look, nobody listening to this show was a slave. So
well, you know,
I've been married twice.
You know, the thing about it is that, you know, another interesting factoid about Stone Mountain is that, you know, the Klan at one point, and this is something that I would pay good money to see. At one point, the Klan pushed a flaming car off of Stone Mountain. And I'm wondering, if we're going for history, why can't we do that every night?
That's how the laser show ends.
Yes.
We got a flaming Pinto just.
I was to say El Camino, but okay.
Why are we not doing this?
Right? There's that lake at the bottom. It'll put it out. It'll be fine.
The flaming Camaro.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, of course, it's not at all support for the Klan, you know, because we all think that the Klan is awful, but I mean, it's, you know, look, I mean, we recreate everything else. We recreate Civil War battles. Why are we not recreating this every night? I mean, you know, if it's really about history, why not?
Well, go ahead and let them march into Stone Mountain today. See how many of them come out.
Right.
Yeah. That's about the size of it. So I attempted to get Catherine Bernard on the show tonight and failed due to other scheduling obligations. But I don't know if you guys have seen it, but Catherine Bernard has made quite a bit of news lately. With a straight up jury nullification. She had a client who had a grow house, a legit marijuana grow house, admitted as much in open court and walked away. So,
and God bless that man and God bless that jury.
Right?
Because that is the way our justice system works. There was no victim. There's no crime.
Absolutely. You know, that's that I was just, you know, I'm stunned at that, you know, and then come to find out through other sources that there are district attorneys that in counties that she serves that will not prosecute a drug charge if she shows up as the defense.
I guess she's worth every penny.
Yeah. I mean, I was, you know, when I heard that and I confirmed that through several sources, it was like, wow. I mean, yeah, that's absolutely incredible because, you know, that's the thing is so much of the practice of law these days is, you know, let's just get them to a plea deal. And, you know, they know that when she walks into that courtroom, you know, that DA knows, the judge knows, they all know that this is fixing to be an expensive endeavor for the state if we're going to pursue this, which is, you know, as it should be.
Absolutely.
I'm typically not one to, in favor of states spending money on much of anything. But if you're going to take away people's freedom, then you need to prove it.
Absolutely. And the threat of a prosecutor just throwing the book at you in order to force a plea deal is not a legitimate strategy for the state.
Right. And, and something that I have always said, I've always said that, because there's a lot of really kind of vague and, a lot of really kind of vague ways that people have tried to come up with to fix the problems in the court. And one that I've came up with that would not require a massive sea change, just a small change in policy, is that I have always thought that one of the best changes that we could make to the American courts is to make a change to the system where there is no second bite at the apple for the DA. Whatever the DA originally charges you with is what they have to prove. And if they can't prove that, then you're innocent. Because, you're absolutely right. They will come in and, it's basically just car dealer negotiation tactics. They come in and they're aiming high because they know that, down here, this is what they really want. What they really want is for you to plead guilty to, possession of marijuana with intent to distribute.
Well, right. I'm going to charge you with murder, one, manslaughter, and crossing against the light.
Yeah. And trafficking. And it's, and they want all that. So I've always thought that, that would be the best, easy fix solution is just, nope, whatever you initially charged with, that's where you're at. Maybe set up a hearing, and because I do understand that there are cases where as the case is proceeding, new evidence presents itself, but set it up so that, there has to be a hearing because that's one of the biggest problems that exist is what's referred to as undercharges. Like take a death, that there's murder and then there's voluntary manslaughter and then there's involuntary manslaughter. And as I understand it, you can be charged with all three. And, maybe the jury doesn't think you're guilty of murder, but maybe they do think you're guilty of involuntary manslaughter. And, I think that is wrong. I think that, if you want to put murder on the table, then murder's what it is. Prove murder. If you don't think you can prove murder, don't put it on the table.
I agree with that.
Sure, absolutely. That gives a penalty to overcharging.
Yeah. Because ultimately that's what it is you're looking at this ridiculous risk to reward ratio because if you talk to any lawyer, they'll tell you that you really have no idea what a jury's going to do. It's all a gamble. Right. And you're gambling with your life facing 25 years and then you got this guy offering you 5 years.
Why do you love criminals?
Look, I just love justice. I love the idea of justice. One more interesting topic to cover. We're going to go ahead and handle this at the end. The schedule has been released for the Joint Low THC Medical Oil Access Study Commission. This is the commission that was commissioned by Casey Cagle, former lieutenant governor, loser of the gubernatorial race, and we now have dates for these hearings. State Representative Micah Gravely and State Senator Matt Brass will serve as co-chairman of the Joint Study Commission on Low THC Medical Oil Access. So we have a joint study committee on THC. That's quite interesting. I know everybody in news has made that joke, so I just felt so inclined to make it as well.
You know, it just went right past me anyway. I'm just amazed that we need to study it again.
Yeah, I was the same way, man. I didn't until you said everyone's made the joke. It never even registered because I was like, great, another study group.
Well, you know, and that's the thing is that this study group, if you go back into the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong archives, you'll find in the interview that we did with former State House Rep Alan Peake, he told us that his version of this particular study commission included the word cultivation in the title of the study commission. This new one simply has the word access in it. So they are, you know, what we're doing here is that this is my prediction, and I'm going to put it down on record, and I'm not happy about it, but this is where I think we're going to go, is that we're all going to get together. We're going to get together 5 times on August the 29th in Atlanta, which is going to be patient, parent, and organizational testimony. And then on 9/18, we're going to get together in Carrollton for licensing, dispensing, and security. 10/5, we're going to get together in Athens for other state initiatives and data analysis. On the 23rd of October, we're going to get together in Savannah for medical analysis, pros and cons. And then 11/14, we're going to get together in Perry for Georgia growers and access. Now, this is what I predict is going to happen, is that we are going to go through all of this, and at the end result is going to be, you know, we can't legally grow it because it's against federal law. So what we need to do is write a letter to Donald Trump.
Well, you know, this is how government acts like they're doing something, spends a lot of money, and does nothing. They can go out there and pound their chest and say, look what we did. We formed a study committee. Now, look, I love Micah Gravely. He's one of our county's representatives. He's an outstanding representative of our people. And it's not him, it's the machine that continues to grind up our tax dollars and spit out nothing.
Well, you know, and the thing about it is, as somebody that's very personally involved in this, you know, I have a son who would greatly benefit from this. And, you know, what you're saying about, you know, wasting time and, you know, saying that you're doing something but not really doing anything has basically been the legislative history of medical marijuana in Georgia. You know, since 2000 this started in 2014. That was the year that Alan Peake dropped HB 885. Was all the way back in 2014. And, you know, we're not really any better off today than we were in 2014. We've spent a lot of money. We've wasted a lot of man hours. You now have the ability to put yourself on a registry and get a nice looking gold card that provides you with absolutely nothing in the way of actual legal cannabis. When you talk to people who are not involved, you know, personally have a need for it, you know, they're confused by the news stories and they think that everything's hunky-dory. Why are we still talking about this? We legalized it last year.
Well, here's the thing. It is morally, ethically wrong, as a small government guy, to legislate what anybody can put in their own bodies. It is outright evil to withhold a life-restoring medication from sick individuals, especially children. It is repugnant to make concerned parents into drug traffickers in order to find medication to treat their children.
Yeah, and that's exactly what has happened. I mean, look, there, I'll just use the term we are breaking the law. I mean, rather flagrantly, and and honestly, it's one of those situations where you're just pretty much hoping for jury nullification and expecting to get it because it's happening pretty regularly. But I mean, still, that's $10,000 that I don't have to fight that whole case and hire an attorney that'll actually do a felony trial and all of that. And then you have DFACs, you have all of these other issues, and yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. This is not helping anybody. I do have hopes that maybe something good will come from these meetings, but I don't know. I would be shocked if anything really strong came out. And one of the things that I cannot understand is the necessity of putting law enforcement on these panels. Particularly since what we're discussing here, we're not discussing the legalization of marijuana. We are discussing medical marijuana. So what does that have to do with law enforcement?
It really doesn't. The people that should be sitting on the panels should be parents. They should be parents who have seen what this medication does, physicians who have seen what it does. It is not a law enforcement issue at this point, other than if you happen to have a card and you happen to be stopped and they happen to find whatever amount of THC oil on you, they won't take you to jail. And that is all the card does for you.
Well, and see, that's the thing is actually that is not wholly true. All the card does is provide you with a defense. You can still be arrested for possession of cannabis oil, even if you have a card. And it's just a defense when you actually get to court. That is your defense, as I have this gold card.
And that's true. I mean, you could be arrested for speeding, but it's you would hope that anybody in law enforcement would have the judgment not to take someone to jail that has a card. But I know I'm asking too much.
Well, look, I'll just close this segment out with this. If it ever happens to me, I do hope I win the coin flip. But
right?
So have you guys seen the outrage on Saturday about all of mostly from Democrats who were outraged that the Secretary of State's website was down on a Saturday for maintenance?
Nope, because I spent the entire day in a trout stream.
Well,
I'm not surprised, but I did not see it. I was out bringing cool to the people.
Apparently, I'm the only one that spent my Saturday screwing around on Facebook. But in any event, yeah, it's mostly from the Democrats. There's some hilarity there. It's because it's all it's all intentional. Every bit of this is absolutely because Brian Kemp knew that the Democrats had a big get out the vote statewide thing going on Saturday. So he decided that he was going to shut it down by doing maintenance on a Saturday. There are calls for him to step down as Secretary of State. Which, you know what, honestly, I'm not going to, come to his defense and white knight him here. I think it is time for him to step down as Secretary of State.
It's not a horrible idea. He is the Republican nominee for governor. He is seeking a higher office. I don't think he's not running for Secretary of State. I don't think there's any problem with him stepping down. it'd be a good idea. Remove that ammunition from the Democrats.
Right.
Yeah, as soon as he does, someone's going to say, "Oh well, he's causing a special election to have to take place and whatever to fill that." I mean, that's really a no-win situation there because some jackass is going to be mad that we got to have a special election, to fill the role until January.
Well, and I get that, but also the other side is, it's troubling to me to have one man who his job responsibility is to oversee elections, and that man is also running for governor.
It's a perception issue more than it's a factual issue. The idea that Kemp actually has any hands and nuts and bolts of all the things that fall under the purview of Secretary of State is ridiculous. I don't think that he is out there deciding when the website goes down for maintenance. I mean, it's a little too micromanaged for that level of office.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I certainly agree with that point, but like you said, it's perception. It's like I very clearly remember several years back, because at the time I was working around a lot of veterans at a job that I had at that time, and there was something that came out from the DOD. There was massive uniform changes that came out. And there was a lot of outrage personally blaming Obama. And, I'm not a fan of Obama, but I was sitting there reading this and listening to it thinking, do you really think that the President of the United States is like sitting at the Resolute desk at the Oval Office, like looking through a catalog of military uniforms? I'm sure that is a delegated responsibility.
And under Obama, I would have preferred him doing that to what else he was doing.
Right.
Well, look, it's quite possible that Michelle picked out the uniforms, okay?
They would have had a little more flair to them, I would think.
I don't know. I mean,
You don't like the Navy uniforms?
I don't like anything about the Navy.
You know what? I think I'm the only guy on the planet too, but I like the digital Navy uniforms, and I think it's because I like the yellow name patches.
Well, I didn't think it was a great idea to have blue camouflage with the possibility of going overboard into the blue water.
Right.
Where did he go?
I don't know. That way.
At least white you could sort of pick out. Maybe it not runs the white caps, but you sort of pick out white against blue.
Well, you know what, though? Now that I think about it, even like their work uniforms, the old school ones, the dungarees, they were blue jeans and then a blue jeans shirt.
Oh, Canadian tuxedo.
Headed to a wedding.
For full disclosure, I'm an Army vet. I don't actually dislike the Navy.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I do.
We all make fun of the Navy.
Except the Coast Guard.
Right, they look up to them.
All right, does anybody have any closing thoughts?
Matt's dog does.
Right?
I hear that.
Fred's very distraught over something in the backyard. Probably my neighbor walking his dog.
How dare he?
Right?
Yeah. Well, all right. We have said all that we needed to say on the show. We have no closing thoughts, so remember.
See you next week.
Remember, you can find us on Spotify. You can find us on iTunes, Google Podcast, or wherever you get your podcast from. Be sure to check in on the Facebook page. Facebook, let me tell you why you're wrong. So we'll see you next week.
Later.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.